What exactly is crypto? Is Bitcoin? What are we dealing with?
So it just started off as an idea that was dropped on a cryptography mailing list in 2008, 2009, a paper that basically said, wouldn't it be cool if you could send money directly person to person and avoid the banks? Which sounds like a pretty good idea. This is October 2008, so it's the height of the subprime crisis. And the idea didn't really take off initially because, okay, but why does it have value? What can I actually do with this thing? And the first use case was crime. It was the Silk Road.
The first use case, by the way, Ben, is always crime.
I mean,
as the commissioner of Gotham, you should know.
You know this. I know this. It's Gotham, baby.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Show podcast. My name is Jon Stewart. It is April 14th. Tax Day Eve. I think this is coming out tomorrow. What a lovely time we're having. I feel energized, ladies and gentlemen. I feel as though like spring, there's a little crack of sunshine in the shit show that we have been living through this past year and change. Hungary has offered us a respite. They have shown, there is an opportunity for voters to have the last say. And it filled me with a hope. And I urge you to take sustenance and resolve from their joy and jubilation in kicking out a corrupt kleptocracy. I think that's why I have the energy. It could also be because President Trump did heal me as Jesus Trump just recently. If you don't know, go to the picture. But clearly he's given me a little bit of, it's like a little vitamin B12 shot in the ass, really. There's nothing like a glowing orb being placed on your forehead. That combined with the election with Orban. But we're going to move past all that now. We're actually going to get into a subject. I don't know an awful lot about it, but I find it fascinating. And that is the world of digital currencies and coins and crypto and all those different things. And our guide through this maze is an unlikely one. He's an actor. He's a guy you recognize, but he has written a legitimate, non-actor book, like an economist book. And so let's just get to him now. Ben McKenzie is gonna guide us through the labyrinth. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted today to be able to bring on a gentleman who has put in the work. He didn't have to put in the work, but he put in the work. And Ben McKenzie, welcome to the Weekly Show. Ben is the author of the New York Times bestselling book, Easy Money, on economics, and directed and produced the feature film, Everyone is Lying to You for Money, which, quite frankly, is probably the case. But it takes a deep dive into the world of cryptocurrency and fraud. Ben!
John.
There we go. Now we're calibrated. We've calibrated at just the right level. What sparked your interest in this world of crypto? Were you burned in a crypto? Did you think you were going to the moon and not get to the moon? What? How did this come about?
Yeah, I'm just stranded here on Earth 1 for now. I'm trying to get over there. Well, in a way, I was burned, but it was through a buddy of mine named Dave, who's
the infamous Dave.
The infamous Dave. I was in my mid-20s. We had gone to college together. I had made a little money in my first TV series, and he came to me in the mid-aughts, I guess late aughts, and was like, "You got to buy stock in this company." And the company had supposedly produced synthetic blood. They were going to make a fortune. Yeah. It's so embarrassing.
Wait, does this turn out to be Theranos?
It's
or
not
something?
Theranos, but it felt like somebody had already come up with the idea of the scam. Right. They hadn't quite scaled it yet.
I see.
Anyway, put money into it. Both of us promptly lost it. And so my takeaway is don't take financial advice from Dave. So in 2020, throes of the pandemic, he comes to me, crypto's everywhere. The celebrities are selling it. And he's like, dude, you got to buy Bitcoin. And I'm like, no, Dave, I'm not going to buy Bitcoin. By the way, what is it? And he can't explain it to me. He doesn't know. I'm like, is it money? It's money. See, it's currencies. It's money, right? I'm pretty sure that's what the word currency means. So what do? You buy stuff with it? No, you put money into it and then, hopefully it goes up and you sell it. I'm like, so it's an investment. And he's like, no, yeah, I mean, sort of. Anyway, it got very, it was very unsatisfying with Dave. And so I felt like I needed to do
a little research.
Do my own research, as the crypto folks say.
Oh, DYOR, for God's sakes.
DYOR.
So in your research, and this will be, maybe we start at the beginning here. So explain to me, because I'm fascinated by this as well, because I think it exposes sort of a lot of the underpinnings of what you guess would consider the traditional economy as well. But so what exactly is crypto? Is Bitcoin? What are we dealing with?
So it just started off as an idea that was dropped on a cryptography mailing list in 2008, 2009, a paper that basically said, wouldn't it be cool if you could send money directly person to person and avoid the banks? Which sounds like a pretty good idea. This is October 2008, so it's the height of the subprime crisis. And the idea didn't really take off initially because okay, but why does it have value? What can I actually do with this thing? And the first use case was crime. It was the Silk Road.
The first use case, by the way, Ben, is always crime.
I mean,
that's that. Yeah. As the commissioner of Gotham, you should know.
I know this. It's Gotham, baby.
That's right.
Look, in its limited defense, the use case was mainly buying drugs online, and I am not an anti-drug guy. I mean, some of the drugs were a little more severe than marijuana, my personal favorite. But yeah, it was drugs. It was buying drugs. Although honestly, on the Silk Road, you could also order assassination attempts. That's
wow.
That guy Rolf Ulbricht went to jail because he was like,
holy shit,
trying to.
Yeah, that you never see that category on Craigslist. It's
right?
Health, beauty. You never see the assassination.
So it gave Bitcoin, because so what Bitcoin is, and all cryptocurrencies, they're basically just a record of transactions on a ledger called a blockchain. And the neat thing about them is that your identity is obscured. It's synonymous ledger. Not anonymous, but you can't tell what accounts, what wallets are interacting with each other. So you can hide, where you're sending something of value. Now, who would that appeal to? Criminals.
All right. So I want to back this up, because
Sure.
I do think people get really lost in this, in that it's sort of hard to understand. Is this meant to run parallel to our traditional financial system, which you imagine is sort of, if you break it down, there's banks, and the banks hold your money, which we've all decided has value, and they distribute it, they loan it, they do all the different transactions that banks would do. And you can invest that money into things that you might think have value, that are tied to things, whether they're commodities or securities or all the various things that you can do that are tied to some intrinsic value that we have in the world. Is crypto meant to be kind of a parallel system that's going to improve on that? Is the purpose of it, whatever they thought the downsides of that were, which I assume would be like volatility or exploitation or those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Is that what it's meant to achieve?
I think the advocates would argue that. Yeah, absolutely. The skeptics would say, well, the reason that look, as soon as you say you're anti-crypto, one of the first attacks you get is you're pro-bank. You're just in favor of the banks.
Is that? We'll get into the attack, because I imagine coming out against crypto is like saying, BTS sucks. Like, I imagine you get wailed on online.
It's pretty funny. Yeah. I've developed a sense of humor about it all. But yeah, obviously, well, if it's not obvious, I'm on this podcast and I don't like the banks. Just like you, just like everyone in the world who isn't a banker, including perhaps the bankers' wives. No, just kidding. I don't think banks are great, and we can talk about whether the banks should exist or whether we should just have accounts of the government, which may be, a way of sort of. The reason that crypto gets so far in its argument is it's really simple. It's, don't you think the regulated system sucks? And everyone raises their hand.
Right.
And then they say crypto fixes this. Now with the banks, when you're sending money around the banking system, what you're really doing is avoiding the rules and regulations of that system, because the banks are obviously licensed by the government. And in exchange for the ability to create money in the form of loans, they have to abide by all these rules. Do they do it well? No. Do they fuck up all the time? Yes. But that is the system that we've created, and they are, at least, in some ways, they have to be responsive to the democracy we've established, because if they mess up too badly, we pull their license.
Right.
Crypto says, well, we don't need any of that. We can just go all the way around it and create this thing that's acting like a dollar, but it's not backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. It's a private dollar. It's a dollar that exists outside of the public issuing of money. So to me, that's a counterfeit dollar. You're saying it's a dollar, but it's not a dollar. The only thing you can really use that for is to get around the regulated system. You could use that for good, but you're really using it for crime: money laundering, tax evasion, sanction evasion,
Right.
Child sexual abuse material. Ships are going through the Strait of Hormuz right now paying in cryptocurrency, because the Iranians don't want to use the banks. They've been shut out of the banking system. So
cryptocurrency is a way to get around the legal barriers if you wanted to do something. Now, I guess the flip side of that might be, it might also be a way to get around. The Iranians are getting it from ships for crypto. I imagine the Iranian people
yes,
might be able to use it to get around a repressive regime. Is that, if we wanted to make the counter,
Yeah.
is that something that would be useful?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, money's a tool, right?
Right.
So you can use it for good or for ill. I heard a story from a reporter about a woman in Afghanistan who, because she's a woman, she can't be banked under the Taliban. And so she's running a business, and she's paying her employees running her business in cryptocurrency, in Bitcoin or other crypto.
Now, are we being too universalist by saying crypto? Because there is, look, in this world, and I am not in any way familiar with it, but so I'm going to throw out some things, and then we can kind of break down. Like, I know Bitcoin, I know stablecoin, then there's meme coin, then there's whatever Dogecoin, which may be a meme coin. Like, what are the different products that exist in kind of the crypto universe, and what would be the difference between those products?
I would really just separate them into two categories, broadly speaking, which is the speculative cryptocurrencies, which is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the 20,000 other, or more. It was 20,000 a couple of years ago. It's probably more now. Cryptocurrencies that the price goes up and down. You can bet on them.
Would that be like Melania coin and Trump? Okay, so that's just a version of it.
Think so. I mean, the Bitcoin advocates will argue the tech is slightly different. We can get into that in a separate, there's this different consensus algorithm that runs Bitcoin. It gets a little bit technical.
My God.
It's all stupid. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, you're betting that, or putting money into it, hoping to make money off of it,
right, through
no work of your own. That's an investment of some
kind. Which, by the way, I mean, generally that's how the stock market,
right? But
that's tied to something.
Exactly. It's not tied to anything in the real world. That's what's so interesting. It's just lines of code stored on ledgers called blockchains. So there's no tie to any real world asset. So what are you investing in? I would argue you're really investing in the story of it and the belief that other people give it value, therefore it has value. It gets pretty esoteric. I mean, look, money is all made up, right? I mean, we made up the US dollar as well.
Sure.
It's just the distinction is really fundamental to me and to many other actual economists. I'm sort of an armchair economist, but real economists.
You have an economics degree. Let's not soft sell. And it ain't nothing.
Undergraduate.
UVA, baby.
UVA.
Wahoo wah. There's no shame in that.
I was so close to going to William and Mary. It was between William and Mary. It was.
Boy, did you make the right choice.
I don't know.
We used to say William and Mary was UVA without fun.
What? Really?
William and Mary is so not fun. At least when I was there were 2 bars in the entire fucking town. Ben,
I did make the right choice.
I bet you've been to Williamsburg.
Yeah.
It's a lovely place to spend a weekend.
It's real small.
4 years gets old.
I mean, Charlottesville felt small to me after about 2 or 3. I was like, I need to get out of here. So yeah, maybe I did. Only 2 bars. So yeah, shit, I didn't know that. They don't lead with that when they're giving you the
and
tour.
one of them was a deli. So it wasn't even, I mean, the whole thing was bananas.
Yeah, bananas.
Folks, I'm gonna tell you something you might not know about me. I'm a bit of a phone chatty Cathy. I like to get on the phone. I like to call up the people. I wish I still had the phone in my kitchen that had the cord, and you could literally walk like 80 yards with the cord. You could almost make it to school with your kitchen phone on the line. Although nowadays, you take your phone with you, so the kids tell me. And if you're looking for a program that'll help you keep that phone affordable there, what a segue. If you like keeping the money, you got to look at your cell phone bill. We all got our cell phone bills. If you like to talk on the phone, the thing gets jacked up. It's always getting going there. Well, Mint Mobile is the perfect solution for these overpriced wireless plans. These big wireless carriers, they made a fortune off high bills, bogus fees, complicated contracts. I think they charge me for food. I don't even know what they're doing. I don't even know what's going on in my bill. Mint Mobile's here to rescue with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. $15 a month. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/TWS. That's mintmobile.com/TWS.
One fundamental critique of crypto is the proponents will say, we want to free money from the dead hand of state. We want a money that exists outside of these terrible governments. Okay.
You want to decentralize it to give the people, to democratize it.
Yeah. But then the natural follow-up to that is, okay, if the money doesn't come from the governments, where does it come from? And they don't like to talk about this, but the answer when it comes to cryptocurrency is corporations. It's World Liberty Financial in the case of Donald Trump and all his coins. It's also Bitcoin. The Bitcoin that is mined now, these new coins that are created, they're mined by multi-billion-dollar corporations, many of which are publicly traded.
Right.
So you're talking about corporate money.
Now and this is going to be remedial, but we're going to step back because this is where I feel like Bitcoin differs a bit from meme coin.
Yes.
In that, and you mentioned it, it's mining. So my understanding of Bitcoin is it's a finite system, closed system, and the blockchain technology, whoever gets the correct next answer in the blockchain gets a coin. Is that?
Yeah.
It's in some ways a game?
Yeah, it's a game. It's a game. It's a gambling exercise. They're running simple mathematical calculations over and over and over again.
And early on, I imagine you could gain them a little more easily than now, because now that the chains are longer.
Yes, the chains get longer, the competition gets more fierce, the price, continues to rise on average over time.
And it takes a lot of electricity and computing power now to get that. So those Bitcoin farms are corporatized. They're now owned by larger, like you can't be just like a Bitcoin dude in your attic grinding Bitcoin.
You're
in the
never
same way you could maybe early on.
Exactly. You're never going to make any money doing it that way. I went to the biggest Bitcoin mine in the country, which is outside of my hometown of Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And it's a former Alcoa aluminum smelting plant.
And they literally call them Bitcoin mines.
Yeah, they call it a mine.
But it's just, in essence,
it's just computers. One of the things that's so interesting to me about Bitcoin and crypto, it's so suspicious, is that they're putting these words on there to give it a sense of tangibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's a coin. Well, no, it's lines of code. It's not a coin. It's a mine, as though you're mining physical objects from. No, you're not. There's nothing there.
Right.
So I think the terminology is really interesting. But yeah, it's just warehouse after warehouse. I mean, these warehouses were football fields long and maybe 50 feet in the air, and it's just computers, just stacked.
Holy shit.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And you sit in the middle of it. They have one, I guess the new technology uses some sort of cooling thing, so it's not loud, but the old technology was they just stacked them in these warehouses, and they had the roof was open, and it's March in Texas, so it's sort of in the 70s, so it's not that hot. But inside that room, it's got to be 90. And the guy's telling me it gets up to 110 in the summer. And all you hear is this whirring noise of the computers running. And it's just like a billion digital locusts. Like,
oh, Jesus.
And it's creepy. It's so creepy.
And how much in a room like that, like what does that generate for them over a period of time? Like if you own one of these warehouse server things, and I imagine the investment is enormous.
Yeah.
What is that generating for you?
You hope to get Bitcoin. And if you run enough machines, you're going to get a certain amount of Bitcoin. The economics were working when the price was going up. Right now, they're in not a great place because the price has obviously gone down since the Trump furor has sort of waned here.
So if you were an early adopter,
mm-hmm.
you're still probably, I don't know what it was.
You're way up. If you got it way up.
Okay.
Way up. Yeah. And so I want to actually address that argument specifically. So
the
strongest argument, one of the strongest arguments that crypto has psychologically is to say, you criticize it and they go, well, yeah, but I bet you wish you bought it early. And I'm saying, I know, but okay, you're saying if I bought in early to this thing I'm describing as a Ponzi scheme and a multi-level marketing scheme, you're saying I would have made money. That's not really a critique of my criticism, because that's an aspect of actually the central feature of a Ponzi scheme or a multi-level marketing scheme is
right. If you had gotten in early.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is that most people don't get in early, and so most people lose. So
let me tell you about Amway.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
If you get in early, you can be a diamond distributor.
Right. And with Amway, at least there's a product. Those products may not be great, but like there are. And interestingly enough, multi-level marketing schemes are not illegal. You can actually have legal multi-level marketing schemes.
Right.
Ponzi schemes is a different story. And I would describe crypto as sort of a blend of the two. But the way MLMs work is your
MLM,
multi-level marketing scheme, is your it's like a pyramid. It's a pyramid scheme, right? So there's the top, the people that started it, whoever came up with the idea. Maybe it's Satoshi in this case.
Satoshi is the person who did that white paper that you're talking about from however many 18 years ago.
Yep.
But no one knows if that's an individual or a collective or anything really.
Exactly. And there's been some recent New York Times reporting on that. We can talk about that if you like. But that guy, the guy that's supposedly Satoshi, fun fact, he hates me. I've never met him.
Really?
I've never interviewed him. He has called me on Twitter.
Is that based on the OC or is that based on?
I think he was a Seth fan. That's my understanding. No, he does not like what I'm saying about crypto. And not to make it about me, but we're here and I think it's funny. I think it's really funny. He has referred to me as a crisis actor. Now, wow. I am an actor.
That is true.
It is a crisis. He's so close. He's so close to getting it.
He's so close to putting it together.
Yeah. Anyway, that guy's quite a piece of work. So if Satoshi was at the top of the pyramid, then the people, next who bought it next would be, right below him, and you would go downward. And so a lot of crypto is really just convincing people to buy the thing that you've already bought, right? The thing you already own, right? Like, hey, buy some Bitcoin because I bought Bitcoin 10 years ago and I bought it at a penny and I want to sell it to you at $60,000 or whatever.
It's weird. It strikes me as it's almost like a Potemkin financial village. It has all the tent posts of our financial system. But if you look behind it, it's slightly two-dimensional. That's why I thought when we talked about it as two separate things, it's sort of an asset and it's also a system. I have to say, the system part of it seems like it might have some real value. Blockchain seems like it has encryption value. It seems like it has a democratized person-to-person value. I could see where in the world that might make sense.
Mm. Well, let me just push back a little bit on because the tech argument is thrown out a lot. If you talk to cryptographers, some of the people that hate crypto the most are cryptographers. I mean, the ones that aren't in the crypto industry.
Right.
Because cryptography has moved on from blockchain. It's not David Chaum, the guy who was sort of credited with sort of laying the intellectual foundation for this in many ways. He referred to Bitcoin, to me, or blockchain as primitive. It doesn't work very well. But to give an example of how well it does not work, Bitcoin can only process 5 to 7 transactions a second. Visa can do 24,000
a second.
a second, 5 to 7 transactions a second. You can see that just will never work as a global payments method because it's too slow.
Right.
Even Sam Bankman-Fried, when I interviewed him, admitted that to me. Yeah, we'll talk about that. But
baby, I just want to say, and we'll come back to it. That Sam Bankman-Fried interview, fucking bananas.
Crazy, right?
And this is, by the way, Ben interviewed Sam Bankman-Fried, and this is in his movie. Before Sam Bankman-Fried is caught, or even, I think, suspected.
Yeah.
But it is so clearly one of those like weird Mike Wallace shows up at your storefront and is like, "Sir, would you like to answer a few questions?" And the dude is sweating from the minute you sit down.
Well, it is because I had the mug that I bought on Etsy that said fraud investigator.
Oh, Jesus.
And so I was doing a little psyops on him. I was messing with him a little bit.
Yeah. But you knew, and by the way, Sam Bankman-Fried, he ran the exchanges by which these things are. And we'll get into all that in a little bit. But now we're back to talking about, these peer-to-peer ways of doing transactions, whether it's cross-border or within borders or person-to-person. It's much slower using blockchain, but is there an advantage that there are no fees charged? There's no interest charged. Would that, if you wanted to throw them a bone, would that be what you'd throw them?
Sort of. I would say that. So first of all, Bitcoin is the real slow blockchain. There are faster blockchains, but the disadvantage,
all right.
The disadvantage is they don't have the limited supply of Bitcoin. So like you can just print endless coins. It seems, hard to have real sort of supply and demand intersections there, or sort of real value if it's just sort of endless.
Yeah, if you could just keep printing currency, as we've learned.
Yeah, I mean, there are some deep ironies.
Not the greatest idea.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we can talk about money supply, I guess, but the idea that there's no fees is an appealing story. But right. I'll just give you one example of how it didn't work in real life, and that's El Salvador.
This is Bukele?
This is Bukele, yeah. So Bukele gets elected. He comes up with what I now think is really a marketing plan to sell Westerners on, coming to El Salvador for tourism, but really sell the country on using cryptocurrency to send money back home. A quarter of the El Salvadoran economy is remittances. It's the 2 to 3 people of Salvadoran descent that live in the United States primarily, sending money home to their friends and families.
Right.
So it's really the foundation of the economy. And if you're, sending it via MoneyGram or Western Union, you're paying a fee, and that fee can be, could be significant. So Bukele's pitch, which sounded good, was, well, we'll build a government system on top of Bitcoin. Everyone will get like $30 of Bitcoin, a kind of a giveaway. And then you can use this system to send money back and forth, and you'll avoid the fees. The government will take a tiny fee, but much smaller than Western Union or MoneyGram.
So it'll be like when those exchanges came up in the stock market, where it used to be you would pay a commission to a broker, and each transaction would have a certain fee. And then all of these sort of democratized methods for buying stocks popped up that said there will be no transaction fees. We won't take a commission. Right. That's in essence what they're recreating.
Yeah, I would say inside with a remittance system. Yeah. Trying to. Okay. And so what happened? With much fanfare, the system was launched. The price of Bitcoin collapsed immediately, like went down 20% in an hour or something. All the exchanges shut down. That's very weird. Why did the price of crypto crash suddenly?
Yeah, why?
Well, if you were front running, if you had a bunch of crypto and you had a big publicity event that you knew a lot of people would be buying into, thinking it's going to go up, that's the best time to sell. That's my own personal theory. I can't say that I have
a little nation state pump and dump.
Little. Amen. That's exactly right.
Hey everybody, I don't know if you're aware of this in any way, but everything you do is being tracked by the government and other agents. I'm just messing with you. Not really. Thousands of companies collecting personal data on you, trading it. You have no idea it's even happening. You have the right to tell these companies to stop. and to delete your information. But obviously to go through that and to manage that maze on your own is near impossible. It take years. By the time you figured it out, they'd be way ahead of you anyway. And that's where this company Incogni comes in. Incogni has custom removals features in their unlimited plan. You can point to any website where your personal information is visible, and one of their privacy agents will take care of the rest for you. It's an unbelievable service. You spend months or even years repairing the damage that is done from stolen personal data. Like, I know I'm not supposed to curse in the ad reads, but fuck these companies. Respectful. Go to incogni.com/Stewart. Use code Stewart for 60% off. Incogni helps wipe yourself from the internet. They can't harm you if they can't find you. Click the link in the description to claim your 60% off and get your personal data off the market. Incogni.com/Stewart. Can you make the argument that this is all, it's a solution in search of a problem, in that, it's not solving necessarily the underlying issues of whatever our financial system is now, in the way that like FDIC tried to address bank runs or those kinds of things and did it, really effectively? Are they purporting that this solves a problem that it A, doesn't really exist, and B, that it isn't solving?
It's definitely that it isn't solving. I mean, I
Right.
would, in their limited defense, I would say if we're to take anything from this crypto story, one of the things we need to take is, how bad is our regulated system that people are doing this? That regular people are gambling with sometimes their life savings.
Right. Well, they're doing that on our regulated system as well. That's what, that's what the AMC hold was. That's what a lot of this shit is.
True. And there's always going to be gambling. But, crypto is so unregulated, or loosely regulated, and it's being forced, down our throats in terms of if you watch sports now, it's sports gambling or the ads.
Sure.
And it used to be crypto, but it's still crypto.com arena and it's all that kind of stuff.
Right.
They're really trying to get young guys to buy this stuff because that's their client base.
So separating this out from, there's two elements to it. One is the methodology of sending things. It's sort of the pipelines of sending money, transactions cross borders, those kinds of things. The second thing is the coin themselves, which are these assets. Are they just like Beanie Babies for bros? Like, is it literally just this item and they've convinced people that it's a thing, and so now they jump in the hopes that it does take off and hold its value, but that's really kind of it.
Yeah, it's Beanie Babies for bros or Mary Kay for men. It's a it's a multi-level marketing scheme. And it really appeals to men in particular. And I think that's worth exploring at least a couple of points. The first is young guys like to gamble.
Now I haven't seen that in today's society.
I remember vaguely, sort of loosely.
By the way, I had bet the under on when you were going to bring that up, and I'm just going to check the time. Half hour in, that's a push.
Parlay?
The under, yeah, that's a push. And but I already won on my OC reference, so I'm still up.
You had a poly market bet on this,
That's
right?
That's right. So is the idea, not to keep that gambling analogy alive, but is the value of this in the people that are creating these schemes the rake? Is it what the house gets? Are they the house?
They're definitely the house, but
Right.
You're playing in an unregulated, unlicensed casino. So you could also win and then go to the teller to cash your chips, and the teller window is closed. In the book, Jacob Silverman, who wrote the book with me, we look at two guys who are trading on the biggest crypto exchange at the time and still now, called Binance, this global crypto exchange. There's a guy in Australia and there's a guy in Toronto. And on this one particular day, I believe it's 2022, they are, one of them is long, one of them is betting the price of crypto is going to go up, and one has gone short and is betting it's going to crash. Well, the price starts crashing. And the guy who's long is trying to get out because you see the value of his holdings dropping like crazy, and he's just trying to get out. The guy who's short is just trying to cash out to get some of his winnings.
Sure.
Well, they're going to the website and they're clicking the button, and it's not working. The exchange shut down, which is really interesting.
You're talking about Binance, which is the biggest one.
The biggest one, and it's completely shut down. This has happened many, many times over the course of crypto history. The price goes down, and the exchange is shut down. And they come. It takes a while. I forget how long it takes, but I think it's hours, and it comes back up, and they're both liquidated. The guy who was long is just immediately liquidated. Yeah, actually, I guess the guy who was short wasn't liquidated, but he'd seen the value of his crypto. The price when the exchange went online again, the price went back up. So the guy that was short also lost. The guy who was long lost and the guy who was short lost. And I think that's just such a vivid illustration of the sort of fraudulence that we're talking about here.
And it reminds you when like the Robinhood app would, in the midst of, people holding on to AMC or whatever, like would suddenly make it so that nobody could buy and sell anymore. And you do think, oh, they're in league with someone. But Ben, what in your mind, as you're describing this technology, which is unwieldy and doesn't necessarily fix a problem. Maybe it helps people in a repressive regime escape, or maybe it helps people kind of hold assets if their country is unstable or volatile financially, if they have hyperinflation or whatever that is. So maybe there are certain uses at certain times that can be done. Why are people like BlackRock and Morgan and these like behemoths then validating this?
Because it's Wall Street, and they're not taking a directional bet on it. They're just facilitating the trade.
Oh, they're saying, let us be the house.
Yeah.
If we're going to catch the rake, let us be the house.
Yeah. I mean, to give you an example, so let's say you buy Bitcoin through an ETF, these exchange traded funds, where you're basically, it's sort of like a mutual fund. Like you put money in and you're going to get a fractional part of a Bitcoin. But,
so those have already been put into ETFs? Bitcoin, yeah. Like, okay. All
and
right.
it's like $100 billion market or something already, which is terrifying if you think of it as like, yeah, it's insane. So if you buy it through BlackRock, let's say, you buy your Bitcoin through a BlackRock ETF, all BlackRock is doing is taking your money, going to Coinbase, these crypto exchange, and saying, hey, here's the money, and you hold a piece of Bitcoin. BlackRock never even touches the Bitcoin. It's just facilitating the trade. So Wall Street is happy to do this and take a tiny, a fee for their service.
Well, doesn't that blow up the whole decentralization of this whole thing anyway? If the whole idea of it is peer-to-peer, or you don't have to worry about the governments of the world, to have fucking BlackRock involved.
I mean, the democratized, decentralized future of money brought to you by BlackRock?
Right.
What are we talking about? This is nonsense. This is total nonsense. No, I mean, so many of these arguments that they make are so flimsy, and they contradict themselves so often. I mean, the ultimate irony that the democratized, decentralized future of money needs the president of the United States to be its pitch guy. Like it was down and out after 2022.
Really?
These guys were going to jail. The price was down.
What happened in 2022 that caused? Because it was, listen, Bitcoin, if you were one of those guys that, in the early adopters are like, I've got 1,000 Bitcoin in a wallet and it's worth $40,000. But then Bitcoin goes up over, I don't know, 100,000, 110, whatever it got up to. And suddenly these guys are billionaires. And then it plunges again. What plunged it? Was it Sam Bankman-Fried? Was it the collapse of an one of those
exchanges, or
the exchanges? Yeah.
Hard to say. Any collapse is hard to know. Sort of, what the first butterfly to flap its wings was.
Right. Especially in something that you don't think is really tied to any kind of intrinsic value.
Yeah, but basically an enormous amount of speculation and leverage had built up inside of crypto, where, to give you an example, Binance was allowing 125-to-1 leverage for a retail trader. Like a regular guy could borrow $125 against every $1 that he put in.
Wow.
Yeah, which sounds fun if it's going up. But if it's going down,
but also put that in, like, I think the 2008 financial crisis was caused by like banks going 30-1 on leverage. Like, not like, so think about that in the, and the collateralized obligations that came in after Dodd-Frank brought that, even that down by like half.
Yeah. And we're talking about, many multiples of that.
Right.
So when so it pumps it up, the leverage helps the pump up, but when it starts to correct and go down, it speeds that process up too, as people are constantly trying to sell these worthless currencies. I'm using air quotes, worthless currencies, and there's not enough buyers to actually buy them. So this happens a lot. And that's why you saw an enormous number of crypto companies go bankrupt in 2022. But what happened in 2024 is Trump's embrace of it said to people, well, look, he's a good chance he's going to be president. He came out publicly in the summer of 24, probably 50-50 shot. And if he is president, he can do a lot to pump this thing up, and people will see that. So I need to buy now. So the price started to go up, went up more and more and more. And by the time he's in office, it's $120,000 a coin. It's the highest it's ever been.
And that's across only Bitcoin. That's not including, I don't know if it's Ethereum or whatever else. That's literally, Bitcoin is 125. And do the other coins follow Bitcoin? Like, if Bitcoin goes up, do the other coins and other exchanges also go up, or that they're not necessarily tied to each other?
Not necessarily, but there is a broad
halo effect on it.
Yes, okay. I would say, which is sort of interesting to look at if you're trying to understand how the market works. But I really have come to think of these cryptos as the story that you're going to get rich. For the retail public, this is the story you're going to get rich on this stuff.
Sure.
So in economics, that's called greater fool theory.
You never want to be a part of greater fool theory when it comes to money.
Well, it's when the price of a speculative asset rises so much that it's really unlinked from any value it could have in the real world. It's not based on its value. It's based on the value you expect other people to give it. So you're constantly trying to sell, buy the thing, thinking you could sell it for more to a greater fool than you, which is a fun game until you end up on the top and you're the biggest idiot left holding the bag. It's a fundamentally unsustainable dynamic, but they can last for a long time. And there's also these things. I'm a big behavioral economist guy. That's really my bag. And Robert Shiller, famous behavioral economist, talks about naturally occurring Ponzi schemes. And
does that involve tulips by any chance?
Yeah, exactly. Same dynamic. Somebody, some product, something gets a value. The price is starting to go up. People see the price going up, which draws them in, which sends the price further and draws more people in. And these things can last for a very, very long time. But if they are actually Ponzi schemes, if there isn't actually a product underneath, I mean, at least with tulips, there was a flower. With this, you're talking about lines of computer code. Eventually they
But that's what I mean by, like, this whole system appears to be a funhouse mirror of our actual financial system, which includes all of these kinds of downsides, some speculative assets that seem to rise in value in ways that don't connect, big actors that come in and make transaction fees that, payment for order flow, all these different ways that our system is skimmed and tries to avoid regulation and creates the lack of trust in the system that you're talking about, that allows this parallel system to flourish because people are so frustrated, especially on the retail side, by our actual system.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think crypto should force us back to fix the problems in the system. If we're going to learn anything from this, it's not that crypto's the way, right? It's worse than our regulated system, which is saying a lot. But it is saying we need to fix these underlying. I mean, the fact that so many, particularly young guys, believe that they really can't get ahead, that like the deck is stacked against them. I'm not trying to give too much credence to it, but I do think it's it's a real feeling that these guys are having. Like, how am I going to
No.
afford a house, right? How am I going
And those exploitative aspects of our actual market are real.
Very much so.
You know, we're not all operating on the same information. There are guys that purchase real estate so they can put microwave towers next to it so that they can make transaction money. It's not the crypto whale that creates volatility selling back and forth to anonymous, IP. Talk about that, because that to me is such an interesting phenomenon in this online world, which is sort of phantom transaction.
Yeah, fake trading or wash trading, I guess.
Right.
It's because the pseudonymity of the blockchain obscures who's trading what. You can basically take $1 in one hand and flip it to the other and back and forth and bid up.
That's a Beavis and Butthead episode. That's how Beavis and Butthead had 20 chocolate bars.
Okay.
And Beavis had $1, so he gave Butthead the $1. Butthead gave him a chocolate bar. And then with the $1, he bought the other one. And by the end of it, all the chocolate is gone, and they still just have $1.
Mike Judge.
Mike Judge. The best.
Genius. There's also a very funny Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode about the guys create a currency, but it's like a Ponzi scheme. They can't figure it out. Anyway, so you can basically make it look like there's a real market for a coin, and you're bidding the price of the coin up, but all you're trying to do is lure in people that are actually putting money into this thing, right? Because if you're just trading it back and forth, you're paying like the tiny fee that it costs to do the trade. And quite frankly, there's a lot of evidence that the exchanges at least have been in on this action, right? Like they're
oh, really? Even the bigger exchanges?
Yeah, in the past. I don't want to say anyone specifically, but like, I mean, to give you an example of how weird it is, with Sam Bankman-Fried's company, he had an exchange at FTX, which everyone knew about, but he also had a trading firm called Alameda Research. And they were in the same building, on the same floor, right next to each other in the Bahamas. And his ex-girlfriend was running I'm using air quotes for that, was the CEO of the trading firm, and Sam was running the exchange. I mean, in a regulated market, I mean, you can't get away with that. That is such a blatant conflict of interest.
But it's not so far off from Citadel. It's not so far off from a guy running all of the orders, having, I don't know, 40% of all the flow orders on Wall Street and having his own fund. Like, that does occur even on I guess that's my point is it may be a Potemkin village, but it's mirroring very real conflict of interest and other things, even within our regulated system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's sort of a bizarro version of it, right? It just sort of takes that even further in terms of the, information asymmetries, in terms of the manipulability. That's not a word.
Right.
The ability to manipulate the market.
Is there anything worth saving on this? Do you securitize it? What do you do
I think you do two things. I mean, if I were, king of the world for a day, I would say, securitize all the speculative ones. The reason that the crypto industry doesn't want, they sort of were randomly categorized as commodities in like 2015. And it's a very sort of strange, fluky thing where they were selling futures, and because they hadn't been classified as a security, the CFTC, the Commodities Future Trading Commission, could claim that they were commodities, monies, real money.
Like oil, oil
exactly.
And soybean. Okay.
And currencies. Currencies are classified as commodities as well.
Okay.
So that's their argument. And the crypto market was so small at that time that I don't think a lot of people were paying attention.
Right.
But if you look at them, as we've discussed, they really operate like securities. And the crypto industry is so terrified of having their products classified as securities, because securities law is predicated on disclosure. You need to know who you're giving your money to and what they're doing with the money. And crypto doesn't want that, right?
Right.
So there's a bill that is threatening to pass Congress that would put cryptos under the supervision of the CFTC. And that's the same thing Sam Bankman-Fried wanted when he was spending time on Capitol Hill in 2021 and 2022.
Now, why did he want that bill?
Gee, I don't know. I mean, you want so the reason you want the CFTC in charge is not just because of the disclosure of securities, but also the CFTC is the smaller, weaker regulatory agency.
Rather than the SEC.
The SEC is stronger by comparison. And
Right.
by the way, just to point out something that's really glaringly, it's such a huge problem in our system. We're the only country in the world that separates our securities regulation from our commodities regulation and puts them in rival agencies competing over jurisdiction.
Wow.
With rival committees in the House.
You'd almost think it would weaken both.
You might. I mean, it just creates all these perverse incentives because the committees that oversee these agencies in the House and the Senate, people want positions on the committees so that they can get the donations from the industries that they're supposedly regulating.
And these crypto guys have not been shy. I mean, there's that infamous dinner at Mar-a-Lago where the buy-in was an insane amount of money to get to sit in a room with Donald Trump and let him talk about how we're not going to regulate you at all.
Yeah. If you bought the top, whatever it was, 10, 25 holders of his coin, got access to the president. I mean, what are we talking about?
You know what I hate, ladies and gentlemen, almost more than anything? It's slow growing trees. Come on, tree. I don't have all day. I don't have all epoch, era, age. I need me trees and I need them now. Well, folks, fast growing trees has the answer. They got all the plants your yard or home needs. You might be thinking, I don't have space. I got nowhere to plant. What? No. They got a variety of apartment-friendly houseplants. Did you know you could have a lemon or avocado tree indoors? Did you know that? Indoors. You know how nice that would smell? The lemon, not the avocado, obviously. Although avocado might, you know what? I actually, let me self-correct. I don't know what avocados actually smell like. Man, they could be quite pleasant. And right now, they have great deals on planting essentials, up to half off on select plants. And listeners to our show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code TWS at checkout. That's an additional 20% off better plants and better growing at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code TWS at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code TWS. Now's the perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Use TWS to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Here's what's so fascinating about this, because if you look at it sort of under the absurdity microscope, so the president of the United States, Donald Trump, comes in and legitimizes this cryptocurrency world. It gives it access to the most powerful office, maybe in the entire world. But the example of his own entree into that business is a meme coin where almost everyone got fucked.
Yeah.
Like 90% of the people that bought into that coin got fucked, and Trump walked away with millions and millions of dollars. How is that not example number one of everything that would be wrong? And why wouldn't the industry speak out about that?
Because they need him.
He left every retail person holding the bag.
Yeah, but the guys who put a lot of money in, they quote unquote lost the money, but they got access to the president. So they got something for their investment, right?
Or were they were they front running and they actually ended up making money?
I'm sure some of them were, but the insiders always benefit in crypto. That's really the repetitive theme. Is like,
although that's the whole.
It's true as a regulated system. It's just more pronounced, I would say, take it to another level in crypto.
Right.
The irony to me that we have a convicted fraudster president, right? A guy who's convicted of 34 counts, or his organization that he ran, his company, 34 counts by a jury, is now hawking the fraudulent coin. And the people who believe in decentralization and democratization really, really need to stay on his good side.
Right.
It's really delicious, I have to say, on a dark, dark level. It's funny.
Now, do you see this then as, so I don't know where Bitcoin is. What is it around? 40,000?
7.
Oh, it's 70?
Yeah, it's in 70s. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still wild. If you were in early, it's wildly valued, like those people still make. What then would cause this to go up again other than some sort of, I don't know. Is it that the supply would run out? And like, why would it elevate anymore?
You know, it'd be hard to, there's so many reasons there. It's hard to say. I think what has happened while we're focusing on the price of Bitcoin, that's kind of like the bright shiny object that sort of distracts us. What's happening on the other side is these stable coins are growing like crazy. There's hundreds of billions of dollars.
Now, when you say stable coins, talk, what is the meaning of stable coin?
It's supposedly a stable cryptocurrency whose value is pegged 1-to-1 with a real currency like the US dollar.
Okay. So it's not a meme coin. These aren't the ones where like Elon Musk throws a picture of a dog on a coin, the thing rockets up, and then, whoever is one of the whales or whoever the people that are front running make a shit ton of money and everybody else gets fucked. This is actually pegged. So this is an attempt to peg it to a real currency to, I guess, get the advantages of low fees and transactions and the ability to move between borders. Is that their fix?
Without going through a bank. Yeah.
That stable coin is an attempt to fix some of the more egregious problems within crypto world.
Yeah, if you want to avoid, if you're a criminal and you've gotten something of value, you're trying to send it somewhere else to sort of launder your money or to I don't know, engage in some transaction with another criminal on the other side of the world, you'd rather not have the volatility of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, right? Because you could be on the losing end of that. You'd rather have something that's stable that you can send.
So unless that currency has high volatility, it's not going to be like, we're at 120, now we're at 90, now you're not going to have that rocket ship.
Yeah, you'd rather use something that's quote unquote stable. And so these stable coins have grown, enormously. And to give you example of how intricate this system is, it's things like Russian oligarchs selling sanctioned oil to the Chinese in the form of crypto to buy drones to send to Ukraine. I mean,
wow.
It is wild.
That's the silkiest road of all.
It is. I mean, you're talking about last year, a crypto organization crypto company estimated that $154 billion of illicit activity was financed via cryptocurrency. 154 billion last year, and that was a crypto company that made the estimate.
Here's what's fucking crazy about that. So Donald Trump is literally shilling for the product that allows our enemies to avoid our sanctions. Is that what this ultimately?
Yes.
Wild.
It's wild. And to give you an example of how deep the corruption goes, the biggest stablecoin company by far is this company Tether. And Tether, their broker is Cantor Fitzgerald, and Howard Lutnick was the commerce. Yes, that's how. I mean, guys, we're talking about
through Tether.
Yes,
and who knows what's actually going on? Because you said it's synonymous. But is it possible that through Tether, Russian oligarchs are moving oil to? Let's make it worse, moving Iranian oil to China in exchange for drones and weapons.
Well, it's not possible. It happened. It does happen. I mean, if you can read stories about this.
And Howard Lutnick profits from that.
Or his kids, technically, because he's technically not but I mean, come on, what are we talking about? Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Oh, yeah. And then, I mean, can we talk about Jeffrey Epstein for a second?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think you're allowed to. Yeah. So, was he an early crypto dude? Is that what that was?
Yes.
So his sex trafficking was enabled by that same system.
One can assume. I mean, we don't have evidence of it because, again, pseudonymity of the ledger, and who knows? But what we do know,
and redactions.
But here's what we know: we know in the emails that Epstein was funding something called Bitcoin Core Development, which is the group of programmers, software engineers who maintain Bitcoin's operating system. Yes, there are people behind this supposedly, completely computerized future. So he was funding that through the MIT Media Lab. You remember the MIT Media Lab? There was a blow up some years ago, a big article in the New Yorker. It's like this offshoot of MIT. This guy, Joy Ito, was running, and they had relationships with a lot of very wealthy people, including Bill Gates, and funding various projects. So Epstein was basically funding, keeping the Bitcoin system alive in 2015 at a point when it was kind of languishing. Silk Road had been shut down. There was a lot of fighting. And why would Jeffrey Epstein like crypto? Well, if your main businesses are blackmail and money laundering,
we have buried the lead here, Ben. We have spent a good amount of time parsing what all this stuff means. And now we're in the good stuff, which is, and how is it deployed to undermine our society? And this feels, I don't want to, this feels Watergate-y times a million.
There's too many directions to go, and there's too much corruption. It's like, I feel like, Charlie Day and Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I got the pens on the board.
Right.
Thing,
a beautiful mind. You're going to beautiful mind it.
Yeah. And to give you another example, that guy who's supposedly Satoshi, the guy that hates me, the guy had him back, who called me a crisis actor. His company, Blockstream, received an investment from Jeffrey Epstein. We also learned that in the files.
What?
There's an email from his whoever started the company with Adam and Joy Ito confirming Epstein's investment in their company. Back says no, that didn't happen, but there's an email. People can read it for themselves and judge whether.
But here's the other fucking crazy thing. Lutnick lived right next door to the guy.
Yes. And visited him on the island. There's pictures. They tried to hide that. There's a picture of them on the island together.
But this is where, boy, I okay, that guy is now the poster child of this, corrupt Silk Road in real life system of depravity and degradation and exploitation and all those different things. But you're also talking about people at the highest levels of our government right now enabling a system that fuels the very types of weapons that are killing our own soldiers.
Yeah.
That's unforgivable.
It is. I was so angry when he unsanctioned that Russian oil, when he decided, oh shit, I fucked up. I went into Iran without a plan. And who could have predicted the price of oil would go up when you start a war around the Strait of Hormuz? And then he does unsanction the oil. And the Russians at the same time were, there's been a lot of reporting this, were providing intelligence to the Iranians to kill our guys over there, right? They were trying to help the guys we're fighting against, and we're rewarding them by unsanctioning their oil.
This is fucking madness. And the whole selling point of this thing is it will allow poor people to avoid those financial fees of international transactions. It will allow dissidents to still be able to live and pay for certain things, even though their governments are repressive. But what it really is oligarchs and arms dealers and corporate titans controlling a black market of war and degradation around the globe. That's really what it's been most utilized for.
That's the majority. Yes, an overwhelming majority. Of course, you're never going to get a statistical breakdown because, again, pseudonymity of the ledger. It's purposefully trying to be obtuse.
So on Tether, could you go on Tether and track whether there are transactions between illicit oil shipments and weapons?
If they gave you access to their blockchain,
but they don't have to do that.
Well, I don't know. I leave that to a lawyer. They have on occasion when forced to by law enforcement, when sort of like threatened with, well, if you don't do this, we're going to go after you. They have given over certain limited, clients of theirs. Their rationale for this is, look, we don't, regular money can be used for all sorts of bad things. We're just issuing the coin. People can buy and sell it. We don't control what they do with it, kind of a thing. It's preposterous because article after article after article goes specifically to this company Tether, and specifically to all of the different ways in which it can be used to finance criminal activity. We're talking about global criminal cartels, South American drug cartels, but also Chinese triads, but also, ISIS, but also North Korean hackers.
So this is in a way, in the way that the U.S. dollar has been utilized as a weapon, the weaponization of, because we are the global currency, the way that we weaponize that is through sanctions on petrodollars or the oil system or any of those other things. And the way they get around it is the exchange that is owned by our Secretary of the Treasury's company. That is what we are.
The stablecoin company, yeah. They have an exchange too, but yes, the stablecoin company is represented. Their financial interest is represented by our Commerce Secretary.
I don't know how that's not. Well, I don't know why we're talking. I don't know how that's two idiots in a podcast talking about that, and that is not a global corruption scandal and crisis.
It is so. I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years, and you have your high moments and your low moments. But,
right.
The reason that Lutnick came on Trump's radar is all of a sudden he was raising money for him in his campaign, right? He was the co-chair.
Right.
And there's all these stories from the summer and fall of 2024 about these incredibly lavish fundraisers where Lutnick would host him and they would raise, $1 million a head or whatever to go into their super PACs. And, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, that some of that money is that the money is given with the expectation that there will be something in return.
Right.
And what's been given in return under the Trump administration for crypto is they disbanded the cryptocurrency crime task force that the DOJ had set up. They've ripped apart the SEC. Hundreds have left the SEC. They've gotten this bad bill through Congress called the Genius Act that allows corporations to issue their own money in the form of stablecoins. That's what the Genius Act does.
Wait, what?
Literal corporate money. Yes.
So corporations, not only are they people, not only is their speech protected now by the First Amendment, and their money is considered speech, they are also their own nation states with their own currencies.
Yes. And I want to say 100 Democrats voted for this legislation, including Hakeem Jeffries and my congressman, Dan Goldman, which is why I'm supporting Brad Lander for Congress. But I am outraged that the Democrats, because they're so fearful of the crypto lobby, which has so much money, and they do have an enormous amount of money to spend.
Clearly.
I
don't want to say where they got it from, but clearly
Exactly. In 2024, to give you a sense of how big this is, it was $240-something million, and it was 40-something% of all corporate donations in the cycle came from crypto, from the crypto industry and the companies, the players inside, the individuals and the companies. 40% of all the money. That's like more than the defense industry and the pharmaceutical industry combined. It's crazy.
And how is this not the bubble of all bubbles then?
It might be. I mean, I describe it in the movie as the largest Ponzi scheme in history. I didn't know it was going to come back and reinflate, but sometimes that does happen.
But has it in some ways been reinflated even? So now the question is, has it been reinflated by what you call the fool theory, or has it been reinflated by international money laundering?
Both.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the scary part to me is that crypto is notoriously volatile. It seems as though we are getting close to being in a recession, if not there already. We are certainly slowing down a lot economically. And this war is such a disaster already that it seems like inflation isn't going away anytime soon. If the economy goes down, then, traditionally, historically, if there's a correction, the most speculative things fall the fastest. And if you think crypto is only speculation, as I do on the retail side, what happens when these ETF holders try to sell? You could sell $1 billion worth of these ETFs, but let's say you tried to sell $10 billion in a day, and there aren't enough buyers on the other side. And the whole thing collapses, just like it did in 2022, but instead, it's now tied into our regulated system. Now all of these Wall Street firms are in on it. Now, they're getting banking licenses.
So now it's a subprime contagion.
They recreated the thing that was created in opposition to subprime has effectively recreated subprime.
Ah!
And there's not even homes involved. Like there's not even like.
So it would crypto be a hedge? Like if the actual financial system falls, does crypto function similarly to like gold and silver? Does it then hold value as a hedge against societal collapse? Because somehow it's an intrinsic value item that isn't tied to any of this other shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the pitch.
Right.
And if you go deep, like the hardcore crypto people, and that's a very small group of people, but the hardcore ones are sort of anarcho-capitalist guys who are like, we kind of want the system to fall apart and then we'll be saved by our Bitcoin. That's pretty crazy. That's really pretty crazy. But historically, what's happened when inflation goes up is that crypto goes down. That's what happens in 2022 in the film is the inflation had started to... So crypto really took off during the pandemic because there were all these stimulus checks. People were sitting at home, guys, they needed something to gamble on.
Looking to go to the moon, right?
Yeah. So that happened. But of course, then the result of the easy money was inflation. And when that became sort of unavoidable, the Fed, or undeniable, the Fed had to raise interest rates. And right around when the Fed raised interest rates in March of 2022, crypto was just nosediving. Just, dropped by half or something in the span of 6 months. So I hope it doesn't happen again, but if history's any guide, it will.
Well, the reason why it might not is because if you think about it in that way, crypto is in some ways an ETF of black market goods. If it's an ETF of the illicit markets, it's an ETF of gun running and drug running and sex trafficking and all the ways that international, cartels will avoid the regulated system. Does it ever have to reconvert? If you're moving crypto is it a barter system and crypto is kind of the linchpin of it? It's not like they have to take that then and then reconvert it into, and I don't know if maybe they do this with stablecoin, reconvert it into actual currency.
Yeah, most of the time they do. And they do that through things like over-the-counter desks where people are actually getting dollars or whatever physical currency in the form of bills so a lot of the transactions that actually occur in crypto don't happen on the ledger. You can have off-ledger transactions, which further obscures the identity of who's transacting. You can give somebody, I could give you $50 and you could give me your crypto coins, right? And so
that would be their version of dark pools.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so most of the time you do need to get into a real currency on the other side, but not necessarily. There is this sort of digital, what's the system in Southeast Asia? It is a way of sending something. If basically the criminals have reasonable assurance that they can transact with each other and get something that they want in exchange for something that they're selling, via this crypto stuff, then maybe they don't have to cash in, right? If the Russians sell the oil and get the drones, then maybe they never have to really cash out.
Do you have a sense at all of how much of this has been adopted by rogue states and how much of it is used to evade whatever we would call the kind of international rules-based order? How much of this system of payment is being utilized for those actions?
To give you one example, North Korea has teams of hackers that hack in and steal people's cryptocurrency. Half of the North Korean nuclear weapons program has been funded via cryptocurrency.
Are you fucking kidding me right now?
Wall Street Journal, look it up. It's
Why
incredible.
is it? I don't don't understand this. Why this is blowing my mind.
Dude, it's so wild. It's so crazy. I mean, you get so depressed because you're like, can we, nothing, it feels like nothing's going to happen until Trump's out of office, right? Like,
and sure, but you just said 100 Democrats were like, hey man, it's cool. Yeah. Did they not know? Have there been government hearings on the actual usage of this stuff?
Well, there was one that I testified to, and then the crypto lobby spent $40 million defeating Sherrod Brown, the chairman of the committee. The chairman of the Senate Banking Committee. They spent $40 million
in that race.
In that race alone.
That's one Senate race in Ohio.
In Ohio. 40 million in Ohio goes pretty far. And they elected a literal car salesman instead, Bernie Moreno, who's pro-crypto. Shocker.
What?
No. Who yeah.
What?
So I don't think that, I mean, look, I would love to talk to an elected representative on camera who voted for it, who's a Democrat, and have him explain his deep understanding of blockchain technology. But I'm going to just take a wager, a guess. A wager actually might be the nice, appropriate way of phrasing this. They're afraid of him. They're afraid of him.
But even that, the fact that they don't separate out, let's say if there is value in these coins and they don't want to ultimately undermine whatever it may become or kinds of thing, the idea that they wouldn't step in to prevent bad actors from using this very same thing to undermine the security of the United States is a mind-blowing proposition.
You talk a lot on the podcast about how the Democrats have really, the Democrats in power, the elites in power in the Democratic Party have made this decision, or a series of decisions starting from a while ago, and chosen capital over labor.
Man, are you, yep.
And crypto is just like such a vivid illustration of that, right? This is a thing that's a net negative for people in general. Most people who invest in crypto are going to lose.
Well, it's unrelated to labor in any way, unless, of course, you work in a crypto mine. But it's unrelated to labor in any way. It's the purest form. It's like the Tron of capital.
Yeah. And they're choosing that side. I hear that there's that clarity bill, which is trying to work its way through Congress. I hear that Chuck Schumer is pressuring there's a caucus that's sort of trying to figure out the Democrats' position on this. And he's trying to pressure them to agree to whatever deal the banks are coming up with the crypto companies to get this legislation through.
How do these banks not? How did they do they plead ignorance to what this is being utilized for? Like the way you laid it out of Russia and oil and weapons and drones. Like, are they going to pretend that that's not the manner in which this is being utilized?
Yeah. I mean, as long as they can make money on it, I feel like. Yeah. Right now, what's funny is that one of the things the crypto companies want, the crypto exchange Coinbase in particular, is it wants to be able to offer interest to people that put money in the form of a stable coin on their exchange. They want to be able to offer them interest, which sounds an awful lot like a loan, right? Like something that a bank would do. And the banks don't want them to be able to do this because that's cutting in on their core business. So there's a fight between the banks and the crypto companies. And when the banks are the good guys, when the banks are the ones that are holding the line and saying, well, we should have some rules, guys. There should be, a KYC and AML. And you're like, oh, we're so fucked.
Wow. This is bananas, Ben. It's really, I can see. How is this? Is this a full-time gig now? What are you going back to acting? Like what? Or is this your white whale? Are you the Ahab, going after this?
I don't know. I'm so ready to go back to showbiz now.
Oh,
this has
beautiful.
been so. I miss people. I miss interacting with people on a set. No, I really. I mean,
I'm with you, man.
Writing books is lonely. Making documentary films is wonderful when you're shooting them, but so much of it is the post process, and it's virtual, and you're lonely. And I'm like, So yeah, I'm working on trying to get back into TV. I want to create a show and do that. I think crypto will be a part of my life, most likely, moving forward. And that's okay. I hope to continue to be an advocate and to talk about these things, and quite frankly, shame. I can't control the Republican Party. It sounds like no one can other than Trump. But if that's what we mean by control, I don't know, whatever that is, the free for all that's over there. But with the Democrats, I can at least speak up and speak out about.
And there's a possibility for influence. Are there other, I have found that, celebrity gives you the opportunity to shine a light, but you also need allies. You need people who are the people in the trenches doing the day-to-day grunt work of advocacy. Do you have allies within that world that together you can form a really formidable kind of battalion to go after this?
I'm trying. I'm working on it. I know there are a lot of organizations. I've done some videos with More Perfect Union, the group started by Faz Shakur and a few others. Americans for Financial Reform is a great organization that is really trying to protect consumers. One of the things that Trump has done, his administration has done, is just rip apart the CFPB, just destroyed it, sent in those Doge idiots, and they fired.
They just defanged and defunded and pulled people, and that's their consumer protection is no longer.
Yeah. Well, that's not freedom, John.
That's a good point.
You need freedom.
Freedom to exploit.
Freedom to be screwed.
Right.
So I'm working with organizations like that. I would love to continue to work with others. But I do think it's going to take kind of a grassroots effort in order to all these people.
No question. And the idea that you could put that kind of shaming campaign, but have real stamina behind it so that they understand, it will be exposed and you won't be going away. I wish you well. It's a hell of a story. For those of you out there who would like to learn more about it, follow Everyone Is Lying Film on Instagram, or go to everyoneislying.com for updates on where it is or where the film is or any of those other things. Ben, geez, man, hell of a job, hell of a deep dive. He's the author of the New York Times bestselling book, Easy Money. You got to get it. It's a fascinating read, and Everyone Is Lying to You for Money, which is the documentary about this industry. Ben McKenzie.
Jon Stewart.
And say hello to your lovely wife. And
I will.
I look forward to seeing you also playing some kind of cop.
Indeed.
All right.
Inshallah. Thank you. All
right. Good stuff. Buddy. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you too.
Guys, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What was so crazy? So I know we had to spend a lot of time just being like, and what is it again? Bitcoin? And then what's a stable coin? Like, there was a lot of remedial, like, what are the terms? How does this work? What do they say that it is? And then he was just like setting me up. He was just walking me down the street, like, oh, let me walk you down the street. You know what it felt like? The end of Planet of the Apes. We're having a nice time. Dr. Zaius is doing these things. And then all of a sudden I turn around and go, is that the fucking Statue of Liberty?
It was Earth the whole time.
Wait, what? Where are we?
Yeah, you can really tell he's been sitting with all of this, digging through the Epstein files, looking for clues. He's dedicated.
I told him, I said, you're not an actor who wrote a book. It's like you're an economist who happened to be in the OC. Like,
by the way.
Oh, OC. Yeah. I don't know anything about it. I don't know. I was trying to tell Tracy, I was like, I think he was on like Laguna Beach. And she's like, I think that's a documentary. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, he's on one of those.
Close.
Next week we'll have Laguna Beach.
Did you know anything about these? Like, when he said Cantor Fitzgerald has the leading interest in Tether, I was like, wait, because if that's being used to undermine our sanctions.
Yeah. I mean, it's even closer than that. I read something this morning in the Washington Post. I don't want to get it wrong, but it said Trump and his family made more in 4 months, the first 4 months of his second presidency, off of his meme coin than 4 years running his Washington, D.C. hotel during his first presidency.
Wow.
Like that just shows.
But yeah, I mean, it's incredibly entangled with our financial system at this point.
Yeah.
Like, and just sort of runs through, this decentralized form of currency just runs through all of our very central banks and is honestly like tied up too with our very real money.
But I remember, do you guys remember when we discovered like HSBC had money laundered for certain cartels?
Yeah, like in Iran and yeah.
Right. And the SEC and the DOJ never catch up with anything. And they're just like, oh, I'm sorry. Did we make $10 billion over that? Here's $2 billion. We're cool, right?
Yeah.
So cool.
This is so much worse. If the titans and pillars of our financial industry are the very conduits to this black market economy that allows the United States enemies to evade any of our sanctions, what are we doing?
I mean, we ourselves are evading our sanctions. We're buying oil from Iran. Like it's very, I don't know how serious any of this stuff is anymore.
Yeah, and I remember reading that last year, Iran's cryptocurrency ecosystem grew to like nearly 8 billion. Like it's not small, the avoiding of sanctions, most likely. And I mean, we're the largest holder of Bitcoin at this point. So it's really a tool of states, and it's going to keep spiraling if all these politicians have no incentive to regulate.
And here's my guess. Even Khamenei wouldn't be so shameless as to create an Ayatollah coin. Even Khamenei would not. He would be like, look, I don't want to rip people off to that extent.
That seems a little scammy. Yeah.
I'm a crazed dictator who wants them to live but I would not. That seems
a bridge too far.
That's feels dirty. Just feels dirty to me. Fucking crazy. Brittany, what do people want from us this week?
Here we go.
Come on.
Jon, do you think presidents and governors should have the power to grant pardons?
Ooh. It depends on if I'm friends with them. I think I do think there is value within the pardon system. I just think it has to be done where you're like rod and reel fishing, not just throwing a net at and going, all right, 3,000 people, they're fine. But I mean, I would say the pardon, it just shouldn't be absolute, that there should be some process within the court system that can readdress those that are. And look, let's face facts. The Supreme Court has made it so that corruption no longer really exists in this country, unless it's like you write on a piece of paper and go, here's $10,000 and you have to do these 3 things. Like, unless it's such explicit quid pro quo. But, I mean, the selling of pardons, the fact that money grants you access to our judicial system in that way. Don't rich people have enough of an advantage?
Give them more. Why not?
They're all satisfied.
Yeah.
I mean, would you guys get rid of it completely?
No. I mean,
No.
Well, it's hard. I feel like now with the ways that we're seeing it so abused, it's like you would kind of rather that it just went away. But like there's such failures in the justice system that you want something to exist in that regard. But
right. And you do want to redress and think about what felonies do to a person's life. And you do want a system that allows for mercy and grace.
Absolutely. Yes.
I mean, I would love if it didn't have to go all the way to a presidential pardon or a governor's pardon in order to get that justice for people. But sometimes it does.
Oh, Jillian, I don't know what do the kids do now? They do this with their fingers on that. I'm giving you. Although, when I was a kid, this was just the way that you attacked your brother. All right. What else, Brittany? What else?
Jon, is it just a coincidence that TDS stands for both The Daily Show and Trump Derangement Syndrome?
Yeah, listen, we were here first. That's all I'm going to say. These are my initials. If anything, this is copyright infringement that he is purporting on us. But we were here first, and it will always stand for The Daily Show.
John, do you think that with those initials and you possibly appearing in an image of Trump as maybe Jesus, that maybe someone's sending you a sign?
Listen, when I saw that image,
Yes.
and the people, it's a podcast. You can't see the image. There's the image of Trump as I'm sorry, he believes as a physician.
Yes.
By the way, wearing,
Robes.
it's literally the picture you always see of Jesus with the light in his hand healing somebody. But somehow Trump was like, I think that's from the pit. Like he's such a fucking, like he's such a lazy liar now. He doesn't even, he's that comfortable with us that the magic has gone from our relationship. He doesn't even try anymore when it comes to the lying. When I did see that image, I was like, wait, I know I don't look great.
It is uncanny,
Truly.
honestly.
When I saw it, that was you. And then when you brought it up, I was like, oh, good. It wasn't just me.
Can I tell you what's most upsetting about it? Is it's clearly an AI picture. So someone had to write in Trump as Jesus with eagles and fireworks and all this stuff. And just grab me a sickly looking man. Like that's clearly the prompt to AI was, and we need somebody in the bed. Somebody robust? No. Make it like somebody that looks like they're in a bed in need of divine healing.
Oh, no.
Brutal.
And it's fucking like, it's not even, like, I really thought, like, did they use is that what that is?
It's very possible.
It is, right?
It's a little too close.
Somebody wrote in healing Jon Stewart of his Trump derangement syndrome.
There you go.
Oh, that's what it was. So that would make me feel better than random computer image of sickly man on bed that could use divine light. The worst part about the whole thing is he was laying his hands on my head. His little Trumpy hands.
Yeah.
That's not. I didn't need that aspect of it. And I love the people that I'm surrounded by on the bed.
Yeah.
The lady.
So hopeful.
I hope he's okay. He's so low on vitamin D. I hope he's okay.
I really couldn't believe how busy that image was. It was like Lisa Frank for MAGA. There's just like so much chaos.
So surprising. His taste is normally not garish in that. It literally is. Have you seen, by the way, a wonderful thing to do? Somebody should do a time lapse of the Oval Office since he's been in there. Because he keeps, like, at a certain point, it's just going to look like my grandma's apartment in Brooklyn. Like, it's just going to be tchotchkes that she fucking won on the boardwalk at Coney Island. And like a little jar of butterscotch candies.
My grandma still has all of that.
I'd take the butterscotch.
They lived above a candy store in Bensonhurst, and you'd walk into her apartment, and it was just like, "Are you opening up a vintage shop? Like, what are we doing in here?"
This sounds cozier than the Oval Office. So
yeah, it sounds like a mind palace.
It was cozy and also slanted. So when you walked on it, you literally looked like you felt like you were walking, and you were just going to go right out the window. Last one, Brittany. Last one.
John, has anyone interesting slid into your DMs?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah.
We talked about this before. I don't know what that is. So there are interesting people have commented. Like Jack White. I put up the drum set and Jack White. Or whoever runs Jack White's thing was like, cool setup, man. And I was like, obviously no chill, like, come by anytime. Let's play drums. So that was like ridiculous.
So you read the comments.
Oh, you got to read the comments.
Which we've told you not to do, but yes.
I understand.
Yeah, and I would especially say after the crypto episode, maybe take a break from reading the comments for a few days.
You have to read. Let me tell you why. Why should I feel good about myself? Why shouldn't I spend a little time having people beat the shit out of me with their own commentary? But the DMs, I don't know.
I'm tempted to ask you to open them right now and like read the first one.
Okay.
You see where it says requests on the right-hand side?
Oh, yeah.
Hit that, baby.
I have 10 of them.
Let's see.
That's all.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
Oh no.
I am never doing that again. That is for sure. Oh, shit.
Oh,
Okay.
Are you all right?
no. We'll never do it again.
I'm sorry.
You need to be healed by Trump
Yeah.
now.
I feel like one of those things where like it's the end of Raiders and I opened up the Ark of the Covenant and I'm just like, melted.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that is correct. Well, how, Brittany, how do they get in touch with us?
Not your DMs.
Things. That's,
Do not.
ugh. All right.
Twitter, we are Weekly Show Pod. Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, we are Weekly Show Podcast.
There
And
we
you can
go.
like, subscribe, and comment on our YouTube channel, The Weekly
All
Show
right.
with Jon Stewart.
Fabulous job, everybody. Fascinating episode. As always, thanks to our fabulous staff and crew, lead producer Lauren Walker, producer Brittany Mehmetovic, producer Jillian Spear, video editor and engineer Rob Vitolo, audio editor and engineer Nicole Boyce, and our executive producers Chris McShane, Katie Gray. All right. We will see you guys next week. The Weekly Show with Jon Stewart is a Comedy Central podcast. It's produced by Paramount Audio and Busboy Productions.